Jim, to me, was that the Chinese actually leaked President Xi's opening statement in the private meeting on the first day, which was that shot that he fired across, proverbial shot that he fired across our bow, that if you cross our red lines, this is to Donald Trump in the United States, if you cross our red lines, then there's a possibility of a conflict. That's a very strong statement. Xi Jinping always raises Taiwan. This is one of the stronger statements I've heard him make in the last 4 or 5 years. And they leaked it mid-morning before they'd even left the meeting. They wanted that out there. They wanted that to dominate the meeting. It's been reassuring to hear Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador David Perdue, and I have a lot of respect for Ambassador Perdue, by the way. He's doing a really good job, I think, as ambassador in China. They both said, look, there's no change to our Taiwan policy. But how do you square that with what President Trump said on Air Force One on the way home? He, in that one conversation with journalists, he equivocated on whether or not the United States would stick to our one China policy and its Taiwan dimensions of the last 50 years. The whole policy of recognizing one China, but strategic ambiguity about what we would do in the event of a Chinese attack, and particularly this issue of our legal requirement to provide defensive military technology to Taiwan. That's in the Taiwan Relations Act. All that happened in the space of 3 or 4 minutes, and I was watching it live, and I thought, this is a possible, very dramatic, and I think very ill-advised U-turn. This would give the Chinese what they've been trying to get for a half century, since President Nixon sat down with Mao and Zhou Enlai in February of 1972. And I was just thinking, I'm a former ambassador to NATO, and also while I was ambassador to China, I spent a lot of time working with Japan, our allies, Korea, the Philippines, Australia. What's the signal here to the allies? Is the commitment and word of the United States good anymore? Because if we do not proceed with the arms sales, if that's going to be President Trump's position, and we'll have to see what he decides to do in it. He hasn't made a final decision, but it sure looked like he was leaning in that direction. I think that the allies are going to be significantly worried about the staying power and reliability of the United States. Not to speak of the fact that there are 23, 24 million Taiwanese who live in a really strong democracy